where Colin was right.
It's a double right. Bo Nix and the Broncos. I said the Broncos would double the win total, Vegas thought, and I thought Bo Nix would be a home run. He finished the season 6th in the NFL in touchdown passes, and it's the most among rookies. Second most touchdown passes by a rookie ever. 18 for 18 to start the game against Kansas City. His maturity, his athletic ability, his experience. I didn't get him kind of being ignored and considered a second-class, second-tier quarterback in the draft. I didn't get it at all. I watched him at Auburn. I watched him at Oregon. He went through multitude of coordinators and was good with all of them. Bo Nix is a right.
All right, first off, people weren't even acting like he was a second-tier quarterback. They were acting like he shouldn't have even been drafted. You had, like, Nick Wright, Mangini. They were making fun of the Broncos, making fun of Sean Payton. I mean, let's be real about what the expectations of Bo Nix were. A lot of the media was ripping him and trying to act like this is a disaster for the Broncos. And there was, when it came out that Sean Payton felt really strongly about Bo Nix, that he had the same feeling about Patrick Mahomes, everybody just made fun of that, saying it's such nonsense. It was also reported that Sean Payton wanted, if he had the number 1 overall pick, he would still draft Bo Nix. And it's like, based on what we've seen this season, who are you to disagree with that report? I'm making another Bo Nix video, and you know what? I'm going to make a few this week, maybe one every single day, because my last video about the Broncos, I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs fans came out in full force, okay? They are like, because I said Bo Nix played really well against the Kansas City Chiefs. And yes, the backups, we understand that. And they're just like, oh my God, this is so ridiculous. How can you praise him for playing against the backups? And it's just like, oh man, what are we going to do, man? Bo Nix in that game, regardless of who he played, just demonstrated high-level football, as he has done throughout the entire season. He's top 6 in dropbacks, top 6 in pass attempts, top 6 in completions, top 6 in total passing touchdowns, 34 total touchdowns in general, 29 passing touchdowns, 3,775 passing yards, 6.5 yards per attempt, and a 66.3% completion percentage, and 430 rushing yards. He's top 2 in scrambles, but bottom 4 in the percentage of pressures that turn into sacks, which I want to unpack more because it's incredibly impressive when you really think about it. What this team asked Bo Nix, a rookie, to do. They relied on him heavily. Being top 6 in dropbacks and pass attempts alone is like, we are putting it for you. Like, we are putting the weight on you, man. We are not babying you. We are asking you to do a lot. And he succeeded. He absolutely succeeded. And he had to make do with, a lot of pressure. Because throughout this season, he had a tremendous amount of pressure. I think top 10, top 11 in the league for pressures, because that's what they do. You get after a rookie quarterback. Your defensive coordinators are like, we bet that you won't be able to handle this in the NFL yet because you don't know how to read defenses. You don't know where to go with the ball. You're going to struggle. And again, he passed with flying colors, okay? So we can see here, this is now scrambles, okay? He's second in scrambles. Jaden Daniels, 75. So obviously Jaden Daniels scrambled a lot. Bo Nix is 50. And look, it's not a surprise that the top 4 are these rookies. Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, Caleb Williams, and Drake May. It makes sense because you're gonna get after a rookie quarterback. Like, that is the objective, is to just get after a young, immature rookie quarterback. But here's where this gets so interesting, okay? So we see Bo Nix is second. But now, if you do the percentage of pressures turned into sacks, okay? What do we see here? We got Will Levis, which we don't care about right now. Caleb Williams, 28.2% of the pressures turn into sacks. Baker Mayfield, 25.2%. Aaron Rodgers. But again, Jaden Daniels, 22.3%. Drake May, 21.5%. So now, when we look at the way bottom here, I'll do it this way. So I'll put it at the top. This is, essentially the people that have the best percentage of pressures turned into sacks. Josh Allen, we know he's a beast. And again, this stat right here is a combination between is a combination between a good O-line, but also the quarterback's ability to get out of it, to essentially avoid the sack. Of course, the O-line can lay in an extra block, but this is really when essentially actual pressure is generated from the defense onto the quarterback. So the fact that he's now top 4 in the lowest percentage of pressures turned into sacks is remarkable. Because again, we saw with the other quarterbacks who scramble a lot, they get themselves into trouble. They try to scramble, they try to get out, but they fail. They fail a lot. Bo Nix is very intentional. He understands what he can and can't do. So he doesn't try to do too much. He doesn't go all the way backwards and try to run around in circles, to try to avoid and make a big play. He's very balanced in that approach. And again, we can see Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson gets away with it because he's a truly special and elite runner. Josh Allen does it because he's just a monster and so hard to bring down. I mean, he is a literal beast. And then you have Jordan Love, who he's scrambled 12 times. He just gets rid of the ball, essentially. Like that's not his game. In fact, it's actually a limitation of him that he doesn't scramble enough and doesn't take the run when he has it. So he's a little bit more of an outlier there, and it's less so because of his lack of scrambling, more so than his actual scrambling. As you can see, like Matthew Stafford up there as well, who again has 3 scrambles. So that's why when someone has a high number of scrambles and yet a still low percentage of pressures turned into sacks, like that is awesome. That is awesome. And like I said, it really can't it shouldn't go unknown. It absolutely should be highlighted. I mean, look at this. Bo Nix, top 5, and now the least amount of sacks. Yeah, Josh Allen 1, Jordan Love, tied for 1, Tua, who obviously, missed a whole bunch of games, Lamar Jackson, then Bo Nix. I mean, that's really remarkable. It really is, considering he was like top 11 in dropbacks with pressure. Top 12. Again, that's remarkable. So the not having a lot of sacks is definitely a combination between the O-line, because that's not necessarily considering how much like actual pressure reached Bo Nix. But again, when you put everything in context and put everything together, you can see that he's really good at scrambling, getting rid of the ball. It's a combination of all of these things. That's why you can't just look at one singular stat, and you have to kind of look at all the pieces together and then, put it together and see what makes sense. But Bo Nix had a really awesome year. Again, I'm not trying to make the argument that Bo Nix just set the league on fire. Just put everyone on notice. Here we go. Bo Nix is the future. Next go, everyone's going to be playing second to him. But this season was my first full season doing this channel, and this is my first batch of rookies. Seeing Caleb, Jaden, and Bo specifically. We'll keep it to just those main guys, because those were the main guys who entered into this season with the most talking points about them, and then they all started, from week 1. And it was an avalanche of negativity. An absolute avalanche. It's actually kind of crazy how, without a shadow of a doubt, the vast majority of people outside of the individual fan base, obviously the Broncos fans are rooting for Bo and the Commanders fans are rooting for Jaden, but it's, from my experience, based on reading all these comments, it is overwhelmingly negative and doubt around these quarterbacks, of the other quarterbacks. If you're not a Denver Broncos fan, like 9 out of 10 times you're saying that Bo Nix is not good, he's trash, overrated, a bust, etc., etc. So to like balance that, it's like, okay, like look at all the things that people were saying. How bad he is at Auburn and Oregon, and he throws all the passes behind the line of scrimmage, and the Broncos are bad, and Sean Payton is bad, and he should be fired, and he's this and that, and it's just like, here you go. Again, you had Nick Wright like laughing, like truly laughing, saying that Zach Wilson is a better quarterback, and I forget who else was there, saying that like Bo Nix is going to be like the third quarterback in the room, and that Bo Nix is going to, trick people into believing that he's actually a good quarterback. And like, the stuff that I just went through you is not trickery. There's nothing, there's no tricks about this season. And it's not like he's a really hyper-mobile quarterback who just, defensive coordinators just really struggled with because he was so fast and elusive and, next season it's going to be different. Like, no. He showed what that he could be great in essentially every aspect of the game. The deep throws, the short throws, throwing on the run, throwing off balance, moving in the pocket, moving out of the pocket, being a playmaker within the pocket, being a playmaker out of the pocket. Scrambling for big gains. Scrambling just to buy time. Like, he showed it all. He showed his strength, his physicality. He's a big dude. I mean, you would have guessed that Bo Nix is like 5'10", has a weak arm, slow, and is just like a G-golly guy. Like, I'm just happy to be here. That it's Rudy. Like, that's what you would have thought. If I had more strength, I'd go all back and just combine all the comments and go through them all. But I mean, it was insane. Because I kept saying, I think Bo Nix is going to be good. Bo Nix is going to be good. And oh my God, like I said, it was an avalanche. And I just remember thinking to myself, I hope I'm right. Because if I'm wrong, that's going to be probably one of my big losses on the season if I'm wrong about this one. Because I came in strong. And I kept saying, Bo Nix, Denver Broncos, Bo Nix, Denver Broncos, Sean Payne, let's go. And again, this isn't me doing a victory lap. This is me just kind of like, just thinking out loud, honestly, and just speaking what my experience has been this whole season. Because again, even in the video that I made for Monday about Bo Nix having a great game, 26 for 29, 321 yards, 4 touchdowns. They're like, oh my God, it was against the backups. They didn't even try. Even if they didn't try, that's still great. And the throws that he was making are still great. It doesn't matter who you're playing. We see great quarterbacks go up against terrible teams all the time and not do that. And he did it as a rookie, so it's just like, give it a rest. Give it a rest. It's okay to admit when a rookie quarterback plays really well and has a great season. Like, I don't know what people are expecting some of these quarterbacks to be able to do in their first year. It's like, unless they win MVP and the Super Bowl and throw for 5,000 yards and 45 touchdowns, that it's somehow considered like a bad season. Like, I don't understand what people's expectations are, honestly. Or they'll be like, oh, still not as good as Josh Allen or Lamar or Mahomes. And it's like, yeah, I know. He's a rookie quarterback. This was his first season. Like, again, like, well, what are we talking about here? Like, it's been a ride, man. It's been a ride. And that's why it's kind of fun to kind of, unpack this during the season going into the playoffs, because it does feel like we've been holding our breath this entire time. And now we just get to, let's, like, exhale. Let's look at the stats that, throughout the whole season. Like, when I made my one video as well, people were like, oh yeah, you played so great. Let's see what they do against the Bills. And it's like, it doesn't matter what Bo Nix does against the Bills and the Broncos. They're not even supposed to be here. They're not supposed to beat the Bills. Bo Nix, quite frankly, is not supposed to have a great game against the Buffalo Bills. He's not. I'm not saying he won't, but I'm saying he's not supposed to. This is not a position for the Broncos to succeed in. They're way ahead of schedule. Way ahead of schedule. They doubled the win total of what Vegas thought that they were going to do. And going up against the Buffalo Bills is a brutal first-round matchup. And rookie quarterbacks notoriously struggle in the playoffs, especially on the road. We know that. We know that. And it's okay to give them the benefit of the doubt. It doesn't mean it's an excuse. It doesn't mean it's a pass. It's the reality of the NFL, man. It's how this has consistently worked. Consistently worked. Jalen Hurts got rocked against the Bucs his first playoff game. Then, the next year, in the Super Bowl, he had one of the greatest performances in Super Bowl history, statistically. Not an opinion. It's just a literal statistical fact. We see this again and again and again. I can go down through all the quarterbacks. So trying to already get ahead of this and be like, oh, we'll see what Bo Nix does against the Bills. And then if he doesn't play well, it's, aha, I told you he wasn't that good. It's like, okay. Sure. We can, really cook the books all we want. But I mean, the reality is the reality. He had a really, good to great rookie year with an awful dead cap. Clearly less than ideal situation. Did not have this legendary offensive roster. Had a great defense. Has a great coach, no doubt. Had a lot of expectations on him, honestly. I know maybe the general media wasn't expecting, and Vegas wasn't expecting the Denver Broncos to do too much. But it's obvious that the Broncos fan base, the franchise, they're looking for a hero. They're looking for someone to like save this and right this ship. If Bo Nix didn't play well, what do you think that was going to look like for Sean Payton? If Bo Nix did not have a good season, if they didn't make the playoffs and they kind of, won 7 games, 5, 6 games like Vegas was predicting, how do you think that looks like? People would already start talking about, oh, do they need to fire Sean Payton? I mean, like, there would have been a lot of pressure all around. This easily could have imploded. Want to know how I'm right? What happened to the Chicago Bears? That's what happened with the Chicago Bears. What happened with the Patriots? Like, these things implode, and they implode fast. Fast. Bo Nix passed with flying colors. And Sean Payton did as well, developing and working with Bo Nix. So, now that we're leading into the playoffs, it's okay to give credit where credit is due. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. It's okay to admit that Bo Nix wasn't a bust. It's okay to admit that Bo Nix wasn't trash. It's okay to admit that Bo Nix played significantly better than the vast majority of you thought, except for the Denver Broncos fans. It's going to be okay. I promise. And Bo Nix has easily been one of the most controversial people that I've covered on this channel, without a shadow of a doubt. It actually threw me off. Because Bo Nix and the Broncos were kind of one of my earlier videos where I really started getting going in the offseason. And I remember interacting with a bunch of other people in the comment section who were more regulars at that point. And I was just like, is there something about Bo Nix that I don't know? Like, why is it so controversial? Did he do something in college that people like really don't like and they don't want to root for him? Because I was like, I don't understand. Why do people have such strong opinions against Bo Nix? Is it because his name is fun to say? Like, I don't understand. I can't grasp it. And it continues throughout this season. So, certainly fun. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos and the fact that they were able to clinch the playoff berth in his rookie season and, really bring the Denver Broncos back into, like, relevancy? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.